You're listening to The Adventuring Party, talking about gaming the Irish way. Welcome to the party. I'm Savage.
I'm king by my own hand, Scarr.
And I'm Liam.
The Warlord, they're getting better and better. But, no.
I feel like I should probably start adding some embellishments. It's just and Liam just sounds a little anticlimactic,
It's all become very character-based, this podcast.
The great and ponderous Liam.
I like it. I like the great and ponderous Liam. Folks...
Well, I got the beard for it, so...
Well, I was just going to say this is sort of an issue that what we're going to discuss today. We start that again.
Beards are an issue now?
No. Beards are great. They're a feature of maturity, of aged wisdom, of perhaps getting on in life.
I'm even starting to get the fine dwarven feature of being a greybeard. You know.
I've a few of those.
That's how you recognise the elderly, respected elder dwarves.
My winter beard, I've started back in September, and it's just got these little tufts of grey right under the chin now. And I'm like, do I want a winter beard this year? My sisters are going to give me hell for going grey. Look, gentlemen of a certain age tend to run into these sorts of problems. And, you know, as you get older, you slow down a little bit. You end up with perhaps less drive, less vigour. Let's get up and go. And that can translate
more responsibilities.
More responsibilities, of course, yeah. There's more people looking to you to provide, to support, to fill their bowls with cereal. I've got a small child is gesturing to me from the kitchen. What do you want, kiddo? Absolutely. Go ahead. A wok is a perfectly good receptacle for cereal. Yeah, so you get a lot of that sort of thing happening. And,
better than a colander.
That's a high-level game. What am I saying? Look, we all need a little help sometimes. We need something to kind of get the engine revving if we're going to enjoy that special time with those people that we care about. I can feel my co-host begging me not to do it, so I'm not going to go with my original intro to this. Let's just say we all need to think about what happens when gaming slows down and we don't have quite so much time. How can we make it better? How can we find more time? Or how can we use that time more wisely? Liam. Oh, great bearded one.
I mean, for me, there's just kind of two ways that I keep doing gaming. I mean, so I think to a certain extent, less is more. Because, you know, the few sessions I have, I now kind of have one gaming session a week, whereas previously I might have had two or three, you know. And I just schedule it, you know, it's 1 week it's a Thursday, and the other week it's a Friday, and there's scheduling conflicts, you know, not everybody makes every session all the time. For some stuff we do in person, for some stuff certainly since COVID we've switched online, and you know that's actually helped one of the campaigns keep going, because I know one of my players is based out in Selbridge and one of my players is back and forth from Shannon all the time. There was a couple of times when I've been abroad just for work or whatever, and it didn't matter because like just, you know, we were doing remote gaming anyway, so that was fine. So I mean, for me, fundamentally, you know, keeping gaming is two ways. One is you got a scheduled session, and you keep the scheduled session, and regardless of whether only 2 people or 3 people can make it, make sure some kind of gaming happens then. You know, if you're doing a regularly scheduled campaign, have your regular session, but play a board game instead if there's only 3 players there, if the GM can't make it. And I guess the number 2 rule is don't cancel 2 sessions in a row.
Yeah, the death of many a campaign.
That is game death, you know.
Yeah, as true now as it was in the times of Pliny the Elder.
Yeah.
He was famous for like 2 sesh. gone.
I mean, if you're playing weekly, maybe you can stretch it out a bit, but I guess it's fine with me. My games have almost always been fortnightly, and then if you cancel 2 games in a row, then it's kind of 6 weeks without a game.
The exception is, of course, a scheduled break, where you kind of hit the end of a season, as it were, and go, right, let's go do our summer holidays, and I'll see you back.
Christmas is always a nightmare as well.
Oh, yeah. That's acceptable. But you're right, you got to keep the juices flowing with regularity, even if it isn't the main game, a board game, or hell, play something that's thematically linked.
I mean, something comes up, the kid gets sick, there's a parent-teacher meeting, whatever, but like there's plenty of reasons why the older gamer may not have time, may not make a session, and certainly, spontaneously may not make a session. But, if it's regularly scheduled, then, if you have a partner, you can speak to your partner and be like, right, well, Thursday's my night off, I mean... I've got a teenager in the house, and you know what? It's great now. As part of their pocket money, they cook once a week, and it's the night I do my gaming. So that could be ahead of you. That could be ahead of you, Savage. Once they get a bit older, you can be like, well, do you know what? You want pocket money? You can start cooking once a week.
We sat down with a sushi making kit that we found in the supermarket, and he took to it. Yeah, we had a few close calls with knives and fingers, but for an 8-year-old, he turns out decent sushi roll. So we're probably going to work that into the rotation. No, I mean,
if you can, certainly it's how I learned to cook was from my dad and helping out my dad. So it's a great way to spend time with your kids and then teach them valuable life skills as opposed to being some of the folk I went to college with who, if they made beans on toast, they'd probably burn the toast.
Yeah.
Yeah, but have you guys got any tips for making sure your gaming happenings? For making sure your gaming happens.
I think you're right. Yeah, the fiber option. Make sure you're putting something through the system every week, or whatever the schedule is definitely key. Keep doing it, otherwise you fall out of practice. Scarr.
I've found sort of an opposite approach. Well, first off, I have a regular game that's been able to survive a few rough patches, but it's very much scheduled around, let's say, a parental time frame where you can put the kids to bed at 8:00 and then 8:10 show up and have a solid 3 hours. Means a bit of a late night maybe, but so scheduling has been helpful, but it's managed to survive a few times where we had to skip a session or two. But the other thing I've had a lot of success with is more spontaneous small group gaming, where rather than saying, it's going to be 5 of us, we're going to get together.
I feel PC gaming has kind of filled that niche for me, because it's very easy to just, some such as online on Steam. Hey, do you want to hop onto Deep Rock Galactic or Alien Fireteam or something like that? And it doesn't quite scratch the same itch, but it's better than nothing. Sorry, go on.
No, but I've a little bit of investment. I got a game for running RPGs for 1 or 2 players, and have just been pulling stuff off the internet, say this simple dungeon or this old classic, and just say, have at that. And because the rules are mostly compatible and they work with 1 or 2 players, I've just just charge into it and just have some nice spontaneous fun. And slowly over the course of things, a few people have played a couple of times. It's been like a cast a wide net of people who have free time and interest, and just say whenever we feel like it, do you want to try this weekend, or are you free this Thursday?
And do you do that by
whatever.
With a conversation, or would you use something like a polling software like what's the one? I know we used it for scheduling podcasting for a while. Doodle? Was it Doodle? Yeah.
No, yeah, Doodle polls. I mean, that's certainly an option. It's not one I use. I just sort of made a Discord server and invited everyone who said they were interested. And that got me enough to
everyone
get a good
who is free tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, so it's the important thing I feel was not to make it sort of a requirement, but like make it a treat. It's like, as a treat, we're going to have a game. We only need 2 people. We need 1 person. 2 people is fine. And like there's no commitment to further sessions. There's no commitment to being in a dynamic duo or whatever. It's just you have a character. They can have an adventure if they show up at this time, and that's fine. But yes, I mean, PC gaming is also an option because it in this modern day we have very easy for people to hop into each other's games and co-op the hell out of something. But I mean, it's sort of a matter of getting the same tools for that same spontaneity, and just. I mean, it does definitely help to put out a reminder of a week. So it's like, I'm going to be free on Wednesday and Friday. Is anyone want to have a game then? And yeah, that's sort of how I've been getting through it, is just with a bit of spontaneous games. Being a little more free to play a little game whenever, rather than try to keep up the momentum of the gigantic campaign with a weekly commitment, and like just making it easier to have a bit of fun.
I guess for me, the odd time
wonders.
Popping in, I haven't been as regular as I used to be. I used to make them all the time, whereas now it's kind of every 2-3 months maybe I'll get into it. The Pathfinder Society has been pretty handy for that as well, because like that, there's no real commitment. You just turn up and play a game,
Yeah. As long as they have a relatively accessible venue, that kind of like, I think there's a lot more local board game groups than we sometimes give credit to. I know a lot of people are unaware that the IGA do actually run board game nights.
Ryan's, isn't it? And,
every Thursday in Ryan's again.
I saw there's a group of gamers got together in Bayside Community Centre.
Yeah, I've heard about them as well. Bayside Community Centre. I mean, if you're an alumni of one of the colleges, you may still be able to sneak into one of their youngster board game nights. I don't know. I know Trinity's says they have a pro alumni policy. I don't know if every college does that, but you'd be surprised.
If you, as an old dog, have the stones to walk into a room full of 20-somethings who don't know you've met him, and eventually someone's going to be like, well, I think he used to go here back in the 90s. Like, if you've got those kind of shops, then more power to you. But I remember when those people would show up when we were in our 20s, and you kind of look at the side and go, yeah, what do we do with this guy? He kind of smells funny. And he's talking about these games we've never heard of. And he won't stop name-dropping people that I'm pretty sure are dead now. Yeah, but it's a possibility if you're that starved for gaming goodness that you could go and haunt.
I think you'd see it with gaming societies. It's often like they might have the policy that it's like, alumni can turn up, but I think once you go outside of living memory, as it were, when the people who were starting their undergrads when you were leaving or just after you left are gone, then you're this weird guy turning up.
Look, if you see me in your gaming society club room, I'm probably there to try and steal a copy of some Mayfair game that is going for 400 quid on eBay. Because you've got a games library you've never looked at. It's compressing under its own weight. You've no idea what's in there, you children. Go look for a copy of Thieves World. Boxed copy if you can find it.
But I think that is possibly one of the other aspects of mature gaming, is that often one of the things that you're missing is your old regular group of old who have now all gotten jobs and emigrated all across the world, or they have 14 children, or otherwise are unavailable, and you can find yourself hard up for people to actually play games.
One thing that I found has helped with that is online gaming. Is using Foundry or Roll20 if you absolutely must, because Foundry is just far superior in practically every single way. Because it takes
Oh, here we go.
the time commitment right down, because like, how do you get your game? Well, you walk to your computer, or you pop up on your laptop or your tablet and you open up a web browser. In the same way that we've switched to recording online, we kind of started with COVID and then just kind of kept doing it, because now for recording, well, we just pop onto our computers at the designated time, and then we begin, and then when we're done. It's not, let's take a half an hour to an hour to get to where we're recording, and then a half an hour to an hour to get back. And same with our gaming,
Yeah.
and if people have emigrated, okay, well, if they go multiple time zones away, then that kind of pushes you towards weekend gaming, because unless they're working different hours and stuff, okay, well, 6 p.m. here is 1 p.m. in the East Coast, or the East Coast of the US, or well, we're in that weird. No, we're back out of that weird twilight period where we've changed daylight savings time, but I haven't. And if they're in California, that's 8 hours
that,
difference.
actually.
So like a 6-hour game here is 10 a.m. there. That might work on a Saturday, but it's not going to work any other time.
I've got a game, monthly game. I've got a monthly game that one of the participants in San Francisco, 2 of them, married couple with a young child, are in Vienna. And the GM, myself, and another player are slap bang in the middle here in Dublin.
So you got
and we have
9-hour time difference.
6-hour window we play in once a month. Yeah, and you can really see it. Like, some people are just waking up and some people are sort of flagging by the end of it. But it's doable. You've got to have. I mean, look, we're talking about gaming when you don't have the time or the opportunities. You've got to stretch things. You've got to make it work. You've got to commit. It's a hard commit. It's all adult stuff, Make plans, try and clear as much out of the way with the help of spouse or partners as possible. But it is up to you to get the game to happen and keep it regular. Now, that said, 6 hours isn't all the time I spend on that game in a given month. So my nugget, for those of you who are listening, would be, you've got more time to game than you think, just not in the way that you think. Sure, you're not doing face-to-face time with your GM and your players, but you can be working on character portrait or your background. You could be writing up the game's session notes so that everyone gets a reminder of what went on a month ago. You can hit Hero Forge and play around with some new looks for your character. Use some screen capture software. Post them to your shared Discord or WhatsApp. Do that logistics stuff that you always promise to do between sessions.
Well, that
do it.
kind of prep can be okay, because it's like it can be a half hour here and an hour there, which, when you're on a busy schedule, it can be easy enough to squeeze in. I guess the downside I've found to running a game on Foundry is there's a lot more prep. Like, if you're in person, I'll just throw out a battle mat and I'll sketch some buildings out with a marker, and then we plonk down the figures down for everybody. Boom. But if you're running it on Foundry, you have to find an appropriate map, or you have to draw a map, or use software to generate a map. And then you have to, rather than just flicking open the book or your little stat sheet from your NPC generator, rather than just having that, you will need to import the character in to Foundry and then give them all their stats, give them all their talents, give them everything they need, and it's quite a lot of work. Now, if you're running a pre-written adventure, a lot of the times most of that work is done for you anyway. I'm running Power Behind the Throne, and most of the big combats, most of the big NPCs are there. Some of them aren't. That you come to an encounter with an NPC and you got to realize, all right, you're raiding a warehouse. Ooh, okay. Ooh, actually, there is no warehouse map in this. I'm gonna have to quickly draw one, or from another module, import that map, and then bring in the NPCs. It's a lot of work,
Can I presume that once it's imported, it's imported?
Yeah, you need to be a bit disciplined with. If you're running Foundry, you need to be a little bit disciplined, because if it gets a bit bloated, it can run very slowly. But you need to make sure you're kind of diligent enough about exporting stuff into compendiums. But look, this is not going to get into the nitty-gritty of how how Foundry works, but all I'm saying is it's extra time, which can be a strain. And what I find in doing that prep, it often makes me less prepared for running the game itself. Since Cubicle 7 released the Foundry module for Power Behind the Throne, for the Horned Rat, I feel a lot more prepared for the game because I don't have to worry about generating the NPCs. I don't have to worry about generating the maps. The maps and NPCs are there. Now, my PCs are all genetically engineered Superman because of the amount of XP they have, so I generally have to go in and start ramping a bunch of stats and throwing a bunch of talents onto the NPCs for it to make any kind of stand-up fight. But that's okay. That's tweaking what's there as opposed to generating it from whole cloth. And I find if all I'm doing is a little bit of tweaking with the maps and with the NPCs, I can take more time to not just read the bit that I think the players are going to do, but maybe, read through the next bit of the book that the players are going to do, the bit that I think the players will do that night, and the next night, and the next night. It's what I tend to do before every game is I'll reread what I think we're going to go through, and then I'll read what the next couple of sessions are going to be. So I know if the party needs steering, or if we need to bring in the next set of clues or the next bit that needs to be investigated or what, that it's not just bam, this thing happens. Have a bit of foreboding thrown in there, And I find, having to worry less about the physical stuff, I guess not physical because it's electronic, means I can worry more about the narrative stuff.
So you're saying essentially that in this situation where you only have like a once a month to game, you've focused on getting tools to make it easier to make the game high quality.
I guess what I'm saying is that specifically it's because the online tools make it easier in terms of getting together. Because there's less time, you're not dependent on geography becomes not a problem, or less of a problem. People aren't spending the time commuting, so from that point of view it makes it a lot easier, but it's a lot more work on the GM because they have to put in all this stuff. And if you can run pre-run content that exists because Cubicle 7 or whoever it is have made this adventure in the tool you're running, then it removes a lot of that burden. And it's nearly just like you're running it in person with a battle matter.
It reminds me of something I came across this year. Someone said that the secret to, or the goal of life is not to be happy. The goal of life is to have better quality problems. So if you're not struggling,
minimum stress,
sort of minutiae of this is it. By taking away the lower quality problems, like do I have a battle mat? Do I have the NPCs imported? I get all that stuff before the game officially starts. Then you've got high quality problems like, are my players entertained? Is the plot going the way I want it to go? Have I created an interesting encounter?
Yeah, there's a certain level of, if we're only going to be gaming 3 hours once a month, or maybe try to extend it to a longer session. But I would say one of the important things would be adjust your game habits so it's all killer, no filler. And if you're running, absolutely, a pre-run module might be exactly what you need for that. If you don't have time to, map out your hexes and write out all those factions, then absolutely go to some pre-run content. But also, you can take a little bit of time in that month to make sure that you're, choosing the right pre-run content. Look online to say, what problems does this module have? What are the pain points? Should I be using, maybe spend a little bit more on DM's Guild for like bonus material or extra rules to enhance the thing, or DM's Guild, drive-through RPG, whatever, try to get the zeitgeist of what a given module is good for, or adventure, or whatever, and make sure that it works for your game that you're actually trying to run, so that you have so you can skip over the bits that would be fine in a high energy young person's game of running through this combat, that combat, and maybe for your rarer, more mature game, you skip a whole bunch of random encounters or fights to make you feel cool and just focus on your big boss encounters, your epic politics, your set piece running away from a giant boulder, and
I'll push some of that onto the players as well and say, be present, put the phone down, don't open another browser tab, be attentive. If it's not your turn, listen to your fellow players and find out what's happening, and see if you can boost their.
I mean, I guess I'm also speaking from the position whereby I can throw money at the problem, but that all of that pre-run stuff doesn't necessarily come cheap because I've had to get a Foundry license. I'm paying. You can host it yourself, but I'm paying for. Admittedly, it's only $4 a month, but $4 a month can add up. Paying for hosting, and then you have to pay for a license for the system. So, say Warfrup, I've got a license for that. I've obviously bought my Warfrup book and all of my adventure books and companions for each of the 5 sections of the Enemy Within. And then for each of the sections of the Enemy Within, I've also bought a Foundry module for those. So, like that adds up, Particularly, people can kind of begrudge paying for the Foundry content when they might have already paid for the physical books.
Oh, a separate debate, and certainly one I've got opinions on. But I think we've probably.
For me, I have the disposable income, so for me it's fine, and the amount of time I save from it, I got no problem paying for it. A discount code might have been nice, and certainly when the last book came out, they were giving a 10% discount for each of the previous, up to 30% for each of the previous Foundry modules you'd already bought, which was a nice little kind of thank you for buying a pile of our stuff on Foundry. But I can appreciate not everybody's going to be in that same position, and so you may do your own work to generate your own maps and bring in the guys, but it's the time really, and for me, I'm when I bought those Foundry modules, I was like, I am paying to save time.
Yep, because that's the thing we're discussing, the fact that we don't have that much of it. So we are, of course, presuming that you folks out there, the older gamers, are well enough situated that you have some disposable income or are already well provisioned in the tools and books you'll need to run a game or play a game.
Well, I'm also aware that house prices are pretty astronomical now. Rent's worse, and the price of everything has gone up. So I say I can throw money at the problem, but I can appreciate that nobody's in that same position. And if you're in a position to, there are various other tools like online things like it's a lot easier for us to do things like chipping in with things like Revolut and stuff as well, because it's a lot easier to send cash even remotely to people as well. So it can be a case that it's like, all right guys, we finished this book, Foundry module for the next one's out, can everybody chuck me a $5? And a $5 for, I don't know, you'll get a minimum 10 sessions maybe out of all of them. It's pretty good. 50 cents a session.
Buy your GM a beer, or
that is a fairly universal currency as well. A little difficult to get a beer that somebody is in California though.
Revolut them a beer. Deliver. Have Uber deliver beer or something.
What's the name of the software license? Isn't there a software license that's like buy me a coffee?
Oh yeah, the little kind of button you put on your site.
Coffee?
Right, folks. Yeah. Join us on Discord, where we spend our gaming downtime, sort of metagaming or sideways gaming. Let us know your own tips and tricks for getting the most out of your limited gaming time, especially if you're one of these older gamers with responsibilities and people hanging out of you, all that kind of thing. Scarr, any final thoughts?
Don't even if you're curmudgeonly old man set in his ways or lady, try new things. You know, if you have no other outlets for your gaming, just maybe see what the new hotness is going, and see if it fits your schedule more to, you know, maybe you're playing a card game with some strangers, or reconnecting with an old friend you haven't played for in 20 years and doing a bit of online board game with them. Like the basis of gaming is ultimately people, and not necessarily the game itself. You know, you'll be surprised how many more options you get if you're willing to try a different type of game, or see some
switching it up and getting
people.
kinky. Yeah.
Am I?
All right.
Yes, we're getting a bit kinky
hope
there.
you enjoyed this episode. We tried.
Do I get close nuts?
We've had about 4 of them. Go on, one more.
Look, it's worth keeping up.
We're doing it. I'm going to say it.
Socializing gaming is a great outlet for your mental health. It's worth keeping up. Particularly, you know, you can get kind of tunnel vision with keeping the wheels on with the family, but you know, you do need to spend some time looking after yourself too. And gaming it's worth keeping up and keeping in contact with your friends. Obviously, if you're doing too much, the juice cannot be worth the squeeze. There might be too much stress involved in getting the game together. But do spend some time socializing and stuff, and game is a great way to do it.
that is a great. Yeah, absolutely. Can't top that. A brilliant place to leave things. Yeah, we do deserve to be happy, after all. Trying to solve the best quality problems we can come up with. That's gaming. Okay, folks, after all of that said and done, I guess this party's over. Thank you for listening to The Adventuring Party. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can head on over to SpeakPipe and drop us a line. Or you can join us on our Discord server, where we keep the party going after hours. Otherwise, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, or Twitter. Or you can email the hosts at party@theadventuringparty.net. The Adventuring Party is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike version 3 license. But you probably knew that already. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and look forward to seeing you back here next week. Goodbye.